Right, so Labour's plasterboard offcut of a leader, Keir Starmer, has also given a New Year's speech, just like Rishi Sunak did. He wasn't going to let him have all the fun, was he? Though I use the word fun in the loosest possible sense. I don't know which of Starmer's minions thought putting him in a factory in front of a load of robotic machinery was a good idea, given that Starmer permanently sounds like his batteries are on the way out. But if you're the sort of person who's into tired old taglines and rehashed policy soundbites delivered in a hypernasal tone of a pitch that sends dogs scurrying, then you were in for a treat. For my part, it was half an hour of my life I'll never get back. After Rachel Reeves had finished her turn at the podium, supposedly to warm up, but leaving you wondering if you'd walked into a Tory speech by accident, Keith was up, sleeves rolled up, as if he was actually going to do something useful. There'd be a first. But then the audio went wrong. Echoes of letters falling off the wall behind Theresa May came to mind, especially as the camera had a nice little wobble now and again too. It was so bad at times, you literally could not hear a word he was saying, though oddly the silence was more interesting than he was anyway. Anyone of a sane disposition would have switched off when he literally started by crowing about his changes to his party's position on anti-Semitism, after he literally expelled from his party the only Jewish person on his National Executive Committee as part of his war on the left, and bleated about his party's commitment to NATO, whose eastward expansion since the fall of the Berlin Wall had only increased tensions with Russia. And with the sort of leader they have these days, it's little wonder that culminated in the situation in Ukraine. Labour's greatest achievements is the NHS. No ifs, no buts about it. That would have been my go-to in his shoes. But when he has publicly stated he thinks NATO actually is, it would seem we've another warmonger in the making, a la Blair. So far, so nothing new. And fortunately for you, my sanity is highly questionable, so I persevered. Strong coffee was a must, though. He spoke of kids going to school hungry, of the police never turning up, of hospital staff saying stay away because they can't cope in Tory cost of living crisis Britain. He spoke of pensioners, of struggling families. He clearly knows what the problems are. We all know that, after all. We live it every day. If only he spoke about some solutions himself, though, as someone who wants to run the country. But Labour under Starmer, as it has been since 2020, remains solidly policy-free when it comes to the question of what would you actually do to fix things, because just saying you'll fix things and identifying what the problems are aren't actually answers. Talking about his experiences periodically won't fix things either, but if you've heard him speak publicly before, you'll know how much he adores discussing himself. He spoke of sport, he spoke of sacrifice. He just kept talking about nothing of any relevance to the crisis going on in our everyday lives. He spoke of why he came into politics, how he changed his party, how Westminster is pants, and we're nearly a quarter of an hour in by this point, and I'm just thinking, come on, Keith, please. I'm watching this to make a video on it. I did Sunak's speech. I have to do yours too, really, in the name of balance, you understand. If I just keep bagging you as you're saying nothing, people will accuse me of being a Tory yet again. And it's not because of that at all. Hell will freeze over before that ever happens. But it's because you're literally giving me nothing. Throw me a frickin' bone here, please. Give me some content. Finally, whoa, there's a soundbite. Quick, nab it before it gets away. He's appropriated sticking plaster politics, the sameness in Westminster that never changes. Well, you'd know. You've turned Labour into a paler shade of Tory when before it actually was something different. It's called the establishment, sunshine. Sounds like the sort of deodorant you'd wear. Establishment for men by Keith. You reek of it, fella. He wanted to give an example, though, and so he turned to energy and the cost of living crisis. He praised the government for implementing the price freeze his party had apparently come up with and campaigned for. You'd nicked the idea from the Lib Dems, currently led by a former energy minister, but hey, honesty and integrity, eh, Keith? This was an example of his sticking plaster politics, though, a necessary last-minute solution to fix problems caused by bad policy instead of fixing the policy before it causes problems. He's razor sharp, this one, once again. We know the problem. We've seen it repeated time and time again by government after government, but what will you do different then? Nothing. He might be policy deficient, but when it comes to paying for whatever he ends up doing, he's much more sure of himself. No checkbook coming out and a declaration that we cannot spend our way out of this mess. When people like me say nothing will change under Starmer, this is what we mean. He has bleated about things never changing in Westminster, complained and found fault whilst offering no solutions, yet then announces extra spending to get the economy moving, proving he is more of the same. You are a sticking plaster too, Keith, only the wrong spending is bad, but not spending at all to invest is just as bad, if not worse. Investing in people so they spend more boosts the economy. It creates jobs and gets Britain moving. He's got no idea what he is doing or saying. The entire speech feels like a script he's been given by the likes of Peter Mandelson, patted on the head and told he's a good boy and just read what's on the screen. This so-called leader of the Labour Party doesn't feel like he's really in charge of anything. He's just a puppet on strings for others. One thing he did emphasise, though, was his plans for public and private provision to work hand in hand, beginning with his plans for green energy, the GB Energy Company plan he has, which won't actually be a supplier to us, just to other energy companies already scalping us. So they save money, we may not. And then he moves on to the NHS, where the Labour obsession with keeping private provision is well known. Those private health donations aren't for free after all. They're not for nothing. These donors are always buying something. The private sector will always want to make a profit. It has to exist. So when you involve it in public services, they will always be made more expensive as a result. This is more appeasement to donors, appeals to more donors that Labour is safe for them to back. It's not a message to us. It's the Tory way. Look after yourselves first, throw a few crumbs to the proles, and with the help of the media, make it look like we're helping people, when actually, as Starmer kept calling it, it's more sticking plaster politics. He's just as guilty of it as the Tories are. As if that slogan wasn't something people have been saying for years, though, another old chestnut soon crossed his lips, and that was Labour will be taking back control. Take back control. Boris Johnson's Brexit slogan. Keith's come out with it. And he reckons Labour was going to appropriate it now, despite Starmer himself sabotaging his own party at the last election, that Brexit election, by coming out and overtly opposing that very mantra, despite it not being the party position. He really is the epitome of self-serving, the dictionary definition of what can I do or say to benefit me the most. He reckons, without any additional spending, that he will devolve policy on energy, transport, climate change and the likes to regions, where those regions will make the decisions on how best to implement them in their areas. They've got no money, Keith. If you're not going to open the checkbook and put local communities and local spending back on an even keel after the Tories have decimated them for over a decade, how is the take back control bill of yours possibly going to be delivered? Nothing. The pauses for applause were painful. The soundbites were all the old classics. Push forward, rise to the moment, bold and reforming, rebuild Britain, scale of the challenge, let me be clear. God, I hate that one. Setting out the case for change, earning trust, new way of governing. There was no substance, though it is promised. Yeah, right. The lack of new funding makes the spectre of austerity seem likely to continue under Starmer and co. It was a lightweight speech by another lightweight leader a day after Sunak's, and in the same part of London at that. Speaking to the same people, effectively. Just what is the difference between them, really? Starmer right now can be emboldened by his party's polling, but his own personal polling couldn't outperform a fart in a lift right now. And it's not hard to see why, when he remains devoid of policy, dull, dishonest, and utterly dislikable.